All right, we should be live. Should be live. Crap. I used a bad word. Oh dear. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. This is not good. Everyone, whilst we're here, I'll just be reiterating something, which is we do appreciate it if you share the mere mortals, all the stuff we've got going on with anyone. If there's any ever a chance for you to bring up a topic in conversation, a cool podcast or something, we do appreciate if you can send that to a friend. I can also remind you that you can clip things on like the Fountain app. I think even Spotify, there's a button where if you're listening to us there, you can share, and you'll be able to share it basically everywhere. You know, Twitter, stories, things like that. I have actually seen people doing that on Jace's podcast a fair bit, which is the Gypsy Tales. So there is plenty of ways to share the mere mortals, and we do appreciate it if you can do that, and especially just that word of mouth helps us out. So yeah, do it. I think I've got that. Should just notify my brother and say that we are going live to him as well. As we speak, going live. Or should I do it later? Nah, I'll do it now.
Well, tell him.
Don't need to procrastinate, Karen. Oh, he brought it in. He brought it in. There we go. Dun, 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 dun. 2 minutes. Is there anywhere else I should share it? Yeah, maybe Instagram. I think I've just got time.
Good.
Should we do our podcast one? I don't know. I'm feeling kind of lazy. No, we'll do it. We're talking about procrastination today, people. Going live. You can find us basically every time on YouTube, Sunday.
Sunday. Good. Wednesday.
All right, 1 minute to go. Okay, that one's sent. I think everything is sent. This one, just need to bring this up. That one has been sent as well. Anyone in the chat? There's apparently 2 people in the chat, which is kind of cool.
Cool.
I like to see that. Put that there. I've got my little question that I asked as well already up and running. I suppose the last thing would just be to check if you can actually hear
the audio's
us.
coming through.
Yeah. Okay. Right on the front page saying we're live as well. How good is that? That's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
All right. You're going to kick us off, mate?
Let's rock and roll.
All right. Here we go. Oh, we have Patricia in the chat. Hello. Hola, Patricia. ¿Cómo estás? Okay, here we go.
Woo! Welcome back, everybody, to the Mere Mortals. Yes, we are indeed doing a session for musings today. So we do meandering. Sometimes you'll see us out at the park, but in musings, we'd like to focus on a particular topic, talk through it in a little bit more detail. Go through. I mean, I never actually mentioned this at the beginning. We do call out our Boostagrams in our Boostagram in the middle of musings as well. So obviously, stay tuned if you've sent through something there.
The very reason why we started doing lives again.
Exactly,
and because I was doing 2 double episodes of kind of like meanderings, musings. That editing time for me was just taking a toll. I couldn't keep that up.
Yep. So it's all in one. But yes, so yeah, back for musings. And you do have myself, Juan, on this side.
Yes, Karen here.
Now, should we procrastinate and talk about this? We are going to be talking about procrastination today. This was why did it pop into my mind? Because normally ask this, why was it that we wanted to talk about it? It just it came up as a topic. And even more so, in fact, I procrastinated in taking all of my notes for this session today, and I did it in the last couple of minutes. In fact,
Beautiful.
I had a lot of notes, and I knew already what I wanted to talk about, but I was like, I'll just filled in all the rest of the stuff that I wanted to. So
for sure. I think this is one of those topics where it might be good to start off with a little definition.
Absolutely,
and then getting into it.
Well, it is actually quite good for the
have you got one
procrastination.
written down? Or?
I do, which is probably
Okay.
the one that you'll find out
Okay.
on the website there.
Read
Anyways.
yours and I'll bring it up on the screen so people can see as
All
well.
right, so mine's going to be it's procrastination. Now, it is very specific here because I actually was going to talk about maybe other things that delved into maybe what is not procrastination. So I thought, oh, you know what? Perhaps it's probably worth considering whether we look at it just as procrastination or we just go broad term. But in any case, I've got it and I think it's the same that's there. Habit of delaying an important task, usually by focusing on less urgent, more enjoyable and easier activities instead. So it is different from laziness, which is the unwillingness to act. Procrastination can restrict your potential, for your future and whatever else. But what it's saying is it's like you're delaying some sort of important task by doing other things.
Yes,
That's
yes.
like more enjoyable, easier.
Funnily enough, it's less judgmental than I thought it would be because here it says the action of delaying or postponing something. So the action, it's not giving a reason for that action being delayed. So
True, yeah.
you could, I don't know, feasibly be procrastinating on your homework because you're having a heart attack.
Well, I guess I don't know. I guess it is saying that it's delaying an important task, usually by focusing on less urgent or more enjoyable. I guess it does say usually. I wouldn't imagine that you'd utilize the word of procrastination of how you're not doing your homework because you're having a heart attack, and that's like procrastinating. I think it's your actively choosing.
So you're correct because if you're using, so that was just the very first one, but if you're adding in that to put off intentionally, or to procrastination, the action of unnecessarily and voluntarily delaying. So I guess it's got to have that aspect of you actively deciding to do it, which is funny because I think a lot of procrastination and some of my notes are more centered around you're procrastinating, but it's kind of involuntary as well. So I could see things happening and being like, oh, damn, I'm procrastinating, but it's also kind of involuntary. It's kind of like I don't have a choice.
I guess that's why I wanted to I did look into the details because I thought, look, perhaps we might talk into spaces that are to do with laziness. Yeah, so we might venture into that path. So
yeah,
are we going to stick exclusively to the definition of procrastination?
I think we can.
Yeah.
If we want to procrastinate out to
exactly. we might venture out 10 or 20%.
Not the correct use of the word there, but
might be out 10-20%, but also both me and Karen are probably like lacking of well sleep as well. So our terminology, we just went live before. Well, you posted the Instagram thing and it was like just said the wrong date, and we were like, hey, God,
yeah,
we're always doing Sundays. But I wanted to actually kick it off though with procrastination with just like actually close this down. Have you heard the word Akrasi? I don't even know how you pronounce this, but like...
How do you spell it?
Akrasi. Akrasi. So, I was just looking up this just before, and it was like procrastination, of course, is just be like a habit from like hundreds of years back in the day. But that is what the Greeks used it, or the word. So I don't know exactly how you pronounce that. Akrasi, who knows? But what I've got here, it's... ancient Greek philosophers like Socrates and Aristotle developed a word to describe this type of behavior. And so like the behavior that they're talking about is you basically being at odds between your present self and your future self, or not doing the things that are important and going and doing more enjoyable things, and just called it akrasia. So it's the state of acting against your better judgment. Is another definition that they were using for procrastination. So I was like, okay, cool. It's obviously, been around. I don't think it's like a thing that... Is it a thing that, is newer? I'm like, it seems like it's been around for quite a while. But then I listened also to a Tom Bilyeu podcast. And he was talking about procrastination and whether it was I guess the way he was trying to form it was, is it a nature thing? Like, are we as humans by default more of procrastinators than we are of action? And the way that he was trying to term it was...
So you're going to put an evolutionary spin on it?
Yes. That's what he was trying to... Yeah, he was putting a little bit of an evolution spin in the sense that he was saying, okay, back in the day, you would have to go on a hunt. You would have to go and gather food. You'd always be working like... Correct. Basically, all the calories that you're intaking, you're using that amount of calories or even more just to hunt, just to be able to collect things. And now that we're not in that state, perhaps we've evolved in a technological way, but our biology hasn't evolved that quickly. There is more defaulting towards being a procrastinator because a lot of the other things biologically are satisfied. So you can proverbially take a step back, sit down, chill out. You don't have to be pushing so hard because everything you're doing is not as crucial as maybe those key things of finding shelter, finding food, procreating, whatever that may be. So I guess that was sort of his take. And I was going to ask you, do you think that that has any merit or value to it?
I think it's actually kind of missing something, which is that I imagine it could have even been useful back when you didn't have easy access to unlimited shelter, food, and water, in the sense that I'm pretty sure a lot of the hunter-gatherers, just from the kind of volumes of work that I've read over the years, they weren't going gung-ho every single second of the day. They weren't hunting every single second of the day. So obviously from kind of midnight through to 6 a.m., so, midnight, from 6 p.m., sundown to sun up, you got to be at your cave. There's pretty much, you don't want to be stuck out anywhere other than in your cave. Got to be in the cave,
yeah. That's where you would have fit in, man. That would have been your thing.
Yeah, 100%. And so there's still probably things you could be doing. You could maybe be, sprucing it up, cleaning it out. You could be creating a tool of some sort. You could be making extra arrowheads or banging stuff. And I think you could come up for a good argument, maybe that, yes, you could be doing those things, but that does require extra energy and effort. And instead, you could just be chilling out by the fire and not burning calories.
Yep.
And so in that way, you are voluntarily, procrastinating on the task of, I might need this really thing one day. But, just as likely there could be a cyclone coming through and you got to, evacuate, and you can't grab all your bag of arrowheads that you've spent, the last 20 nights meticulously crafting and things like that. So I think that there could be a good argument for why it existed even kind of prehistoric times, and is why there's not prehistoric times, what would be the word, like Neanderthal times.
Dude, I wouldn't even know, man. Today's podcast is going to be one of those ones, folks. Yeah. But in saying that, and to bring a little bit of energy, I agree with you 100% because I got to listening about halfway through and I had a similar mindset in the way he was explaining it, and like, it's so much harder now today because it's so easy to procrastinate and a lot of those critical things are available. I kind of went, I get that idea, but I think it's looking at it in the wrong way in that, and probably gives an indication that at the time, probably in like Neanderthal times, it was more time critical. Like it was like the criticality or the boxing of the time that you had to do things, where it became like, okay, you can't procrastinate anymore because you're going to die. So that also changed the game. So I could imagine that there would be people who back in the day would have still gone ahead and be like, you know what? We've got a bit of food. Actually, we can, rather than going out and hunting again, as you say, I'm going to paint, right? I'm going to do some painting, like rock painting, right? So if they were truly not procrastinating, would we have seen any paintings? Maybe, maybe not. But to me, I go, now, maybe they would have had less of it by necessity because you had to spend more time doing other things. But I don't think it's a new thing. I don't think the idea of it is something that we've evolved to. It almost seems like, no, it's just a present always. Do you think that animals procrastinate?
Do animals procrastinate?
I haven't even Googled this. I haven't even looked this up at all. Would you, off your head, you'd be like,
If we're using that strict definition we had of voluntarily, or with an intention to put off a task, then I'd say no, because that kind of implies consciousness, that you have the ability to distinguish between actions and really have and be able to stop yourself from automatically doing actions, which animals don't really have. We just, well, at least that's what we assume. They just they behave. They don't think per se. There's definitely activity going on in their brain, but it's not a conscious decision. So in that case, I'd probably say no, but I'm pretty sure there's some behaviors that we could look at and be like, look at that silly bird. Like, it should be building a nest, instead it's going and
doing something else completely.
trying to mate or whatnot.
Well, I guess this is how you define how animals do see the world. But so I'm going to try to combine a couple of things here. So James Clear, who's the author of Atomic Habits. Now, I haven't even read this book yet, but I've got it in terms of going to go reading. Now, and if you, by the way, we're going to be talking about probably a few things in procrastination and things that are personal. If you actually want to just see like lots of really good detail and stuff, type in James Clear procrastination into Google. He's got like a awesome page. I was literally just reading before. I was like, this is perfect. This is awesome. So recommend people do it. We'll probably pull it up in a moment, not just yet, for a graph that I'll refer to a little bit later. But it's, James Clear procrastination. But so this particular aspect of, now even like lost my train of thought. I was just talking through then. So you were saying, animals. So on that particular article, there was a piece that was talking about, because he was also trying to define it. And it's just when your present self is at odds with your future self. And so that's what made me think even more so, okay, procrastination is probably just a human, like from a human perspective, and that we can see present and future selves. And so we'll trade off, like the whole trade-off of, okay, I can see that right now this task in front of me is more enjoyable to play with a Rubik's Cube than it is to chop down this tree that's outside my house. Okay, my present self sees that the reward of doing this is like the endorphin hits or whatever dopamine hit is better, so I'll do that now, and doesn't put into context that the future self probably going to have more benefit if you do and chop that tree, because maybe you're getting paid for it, maybe it's just a task that you have to do, like the important task. And so there was that aspect in that article that he talks about, okay, it's probably a little bit of that, it's the present self and the future self, which then made me think, okay, then if you believe that, say, a dog just lives in the now, like it doesn't really have a consciousness of future, past me, future dog, then I'd say, then there wouldn't be an ability for them to procrastinate, because there's no clear view for them to be like, oh yeah, this important task that's got to be done like X date, or has to be put in comparison with anything else. For them, it's just like, oh no, it's just my present self. So there's no, I guess I wouldn't call it procrastination under that definition. But depends on how you see animals and whether you think that they do, like, future look or remember the past and things like that. I guess it would differ on your actual examples. But another one that I actually found really interesting. So that's the graph I was talking about. So procrastination. And so if you kind of, actually, there's a good call out, because sometimes some people are listening to us here at the Mere Mortals and they don't see what we're actually talking about.
Yep.
But it is essentially a graph that is pain on the y-axis, and what's on the x-axis? Time. So basically it's a graph that kind of shows, hey, procrastination and pain, how does that actually look like? And it's basically like a bell curve.
Yep.
However, on the left-hand side of the bell curve is procrastination. On the right-hand side is action. And it actually just talked through to actually say that, in point A, where you're in procrastination on the left-hand side of that graph, you're actually a little bit higher on the pain level, and then it peaks at a particular point. And he just talked through that, that peak point is not actually when you're doing the action, it's you're transitioning to do the action. It's almost like that moment where you have to make that conscious effort of like, okay, no, I've got to put down the Rubik's Cube, I've got to go outside, I've got to go chop that wood. Like that's the critical pain point. But then when you move beyond, if you can see the image, or if you can't, it basically dips back down on the bell curve and actually goes lower. So the pain actually even goes lower when you are doing the actual action. And some of his descriptions there about why is that the case is because, I guess in some part, when you're procrastinating, like we all know, you're like, oh man, I really should be doing my homework, but I'm just watching another video. Or I really should go to bed so I can be ready for tomorrow, but actually I'm just playing games. So there's that knowing that you're not doing the thing that you should be doing, that has a little bit of pain. So that's why he describes it with a little bit more pain. And then when you're doing the actual action, not right about to begin, but you're into it, it's like, okay, well now you're actually doing it. Your pain actually subsides and, well, it actually goes, well, from that particular graph in any case, the pain of the procrastination decreases.
Yeah, that's a cool concept.
I had never saw that before. So, but in any case, I'd recommend people just to like, if they want to see more details, obviously from James Clear,
so that's
website,
jamesclear.com/procrastination.
Yeah, imagine that, like all just a full page of procrastination. So, but then okay, a question back to you, Karen. How often would you say then do you procrastinate?
Or let's. I was actually thinking we could split that up and do those more personal ones after the Boostagrams.
Oh, yeah, okay, cool. I like that. Yep.
There was just one thing I wanted to bring up, which was I guess, deciding between priorities and if something is procrastination truly, or if it's just you've realized priorities are different. And I guess with procrastination, I'm not sure I'm sure there's someone out there who has written a blog article saying procrastination is the best and explaining why. Sort of like there's a book called Against Empathy by Paul Bloom, and why there's books of, every single bad thing is then been like switched on its head because someone has found a way of like, oh, I can get some clicks and hits. And maybe there's a good point. But I was just thinking about task kind of allocation, and is it possible to procrastinate on something? You've got a task and you say, okay, this needs to get done, and it needs to get done usually with an end date, or sometimes not even necessarily. Sometimes it's just you should be training and you're not. Is it possible to procrastinate on something for something that is even more important? So it's kind of like your priorities. You've actually got your priorities in the right order. You're probably doing something that is more important, but it feels like that you're procrastinating on this other thing. So I'm just imagining, what if I had my kind of German practice and I noticed myself kind of getting bored or something, or it's like, oh, I feel like doing something else, even though it's in my allocated time slot of 1 hour. And instead of going on Twitter and looking at a funny meme or something, I instead go and do something related to the podcast of switching over to the book reviews or something, which I know I also hate. I also know is important and maybe even more important. So is it possible to procrastinate in a kind of healthy way in that you are doing something that's better in a way, even though it might not subjectively feel like it?
Yeah, maybe by the definition that you're procrastinating on something that is, you're not choosing to do the important task because you're doing another task that is more enjoyable or easier. But I guess if the task that you then end up doing is harder and maybe equally as enjoyable, let's just say, I guess you could say that it is, that you are procrastinating on it.
I feel like I could create a business around
around
this idea.
Because you do have the pain still that you're not doing the other thing. Like, as you say, if you have the allotted hour for German and then you don't do that, you still have the pain of, I'm procrastinating on doing this, but you're doing something else that's equally productive, I would say, towards it. Also important, maybe not super enjoyable, it's painful, but it is important. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, I was even, just while on this topic, I went, okay, so I've got this kind of things to do list on my phone, and I should definitely maybe order it in a way so that things to do list actually has the really kind of high stuff up the top. So if I find myself procrastinating, I can kind of go to it, do something which is kind of even more important, just not important.
Well,
at that life or death individual thing right at that
I guess you would still call it procrastination, but it is a positive procrastination. Let's just say, like, there's good stuff that comes from that procrastination. I guess actually an example I do have, let's just say there'll be some days where I should be preparing a bag to go somewhere, or I should be going to the gym. Like, I should be getting ready and going to the gym. And sometimes I'll procrastinate getting up out of bed and do a French lesson. Like, I'll be like, okay, I'll just do the French lesson. And it does seem enjoyable to me. It's 3-4 minutes. But if I really looked at it, I'm like, I guess it is important to do. I do have it as part of my goals to be doing, like, French practice. I guess that's like, I am procrastinating on doing the thing that was on my mind, half consciously, half not consciously. But it's kind of okay because I'm also doing something else which is good for me. So, that's okay. That might be, there might be ways that you can procrastinate that are good for you,
in a objectively good
way. Still against the important task you're supposed to be doing, you're procrastinating. So I guess the pain of not doing it
still exists.
But then in the example for your present self and your future self, the thing you're procrastinating on for the future self, yes, you're like letting that down, but you're doing something else for the future self and the present self, which is enjoying it. So that's also like a side of good. Maybe as a like totality, like as a whole net.
Yeah.
There's more positive there than just going and doing something like pure enjoyment that doesn't fulfill something for the future. Okay.
I could also think of someone who voluntarily chooses something that they hate. So there's levels of hatred for doing something, which is generally why you procrastinate on it. And so let's just say with I was talking about coding recently and how I kind of dislike problem solving, which is hard. Check out the next meanderings if you want to know more about that. But say I set that as a goal and then I realize, oh, okay, this is going to be really hard. I dislike this. So what if I set myself voluntarily something that's even harder, something I dislike even more, researching politics. And so then when I start my researching politics, I immediately default to the coding.
That's not bad. That is not actually a bad
and it kind of feels better.
It's like if this hasn't already been written down, I'm like, that's kind of a pretty good trick to be like, force something that's even more difficult, something that you really don't want to do, and then procrastinate away on the things that you like.
Tim Ferriss has talked about how you can make a bet, and there's a website out there where you make a bet, which will maybe not a bet, a donation to
it'll be like the worst
a charity that you hate, the KKK or the I don't know. Let's say you're pro-environmental and you've got something set up to donate to BHP Bulletin or one of the mining companies, then that's kind of, in a way, it's a similar concept, which is, if I procrastinate on this bad thing, maybe it's a little bit different because in this case,
it's the incentivization of it.
The negative.
In that particular article as well, James Clear was talking about how, what can you do about procrastination or to try to, and one of the examples was, sometimes you procrastinate because you're choosing the immediate, the present self and the reward that comes from that, rather than the future self, even though you know that there are reward there. But it's just hard for us to conceptualize the both sort of states. As he was saying, okay, well, you could bring some of that reward forward. So perhaps you do say to yourself, okay, I've got to do this reading of politics for 15 minutes, but at the end of the 15 minutes, I'll do something good for myself. I'll eat a piece of chocolate, something like that. So bring some sort of reward forward to it. But then the other one was bring some sort of punishment for procrastination. So in a similar sense, if you don't do this 15 minutes, you've got to give $20 away to somebody random on the street that you see or something else that makes you go, okay, well, now I've got some present day punishments or, anti-rewards, I guess, that it's going to be like, okay, now I do want to do this just so I don't go down that path.
Bringing that future pain more to the present, so it's more...
it's more tangible for you. You can be like, okay, I can actually compare it to my present self. So those are a few things that he talked about in there as well.
Okay, cool. I'm going to read out some of the chat comments and then I'll get you to do the Boostagrams. Yeah, so we've got a couple of people in the chat. Liam F says, are we just dopamine goblins chasing that high? Could be. Juan definitely looks like a goblin.
Dude, 100%.
And then we have Mr. Broadshoulders. Joey says, some definitely are. Ben Cousins comes to mind. He loves to chase that high. Just asked my mum her favorite way of procrastinating, and it's just to sitting in front of the computer. That's funny. So it's not even a default thing in front of the computer. It's kind of like you go in front of the computer and then magic just happens somehow.
Well, I sometimes procrastinate on the computer because I'll have some tabs like CoinSpot account or the just normal Discord and whatever else. And so sometimes it'll feel like I'm doing something, but really I'm just procrastinating because I'm opening like a tab. I'm scrolling through the feed and seeing what people are saying. I guess that is procrastination from other things, but it's like I feel like I'm doing something, but in reality,
Yeah, I do that a tiny bit, but it's not a problem, so I'm kind of okay with it.
We'll get into that as well after these Boostagrams, but let's get into the Boostagram Lounge.
The Boostagram Lounge.
All right, now as always, where am I kicking off from?
So it should be. So we're in the 7th, so it should be from the 31st of the 1st.
The 31st.
Yeah, it's a full week.
Holy dooly! What in the world?
You've gotten in trouble before because you've missed one.
Oh no! I've got it now. I've got it. Good. Okay. So, Dave Jones, he says, "You guys are the best."
Oh, Dave!
2,112 sats sent using Castamatic.
I saw that.
Damn.
I saw that come through, and he was he even mentioned that was kind of like a test one that he was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I gave him one of those, what's his name? The guy from The Matrix, Neo? Keanu Reeves. And it's that where he's on that podium and someone calls out like, you're my sweetheart or something. And he's like, no, breathtaking. No, you're breathtaking. So I sent that gift back to him. So thank you, Dave.
I like it. Thank you very much, Dave. And that was sent using Castamatic. And then another one, my weekly boost for the Mere Mortal Light Nation, 12,112 sats sent using Cron.
Got that Cron action going on.
Dude, Dave, always appreciate it. Thank you so much, man. Really do appreciate it. Couple of big ones here.
A rush boost is also what that's called.
What, the 12,000?
12,000. So those numbers, I really should research this. The 2112 is something to do with the band Rush.
That's 12112.
Yeah, so that's like a big rush boost.
Gotcha. Okay, gotcha. Well, anyways, Dave, thanks for the normal rush boost and for the big rush boost.
I will not procrastinate on researching that, Dave.
Okay. It'll get done.
Top priority for me.
Now, as usual, we've got a Peter coming up here on the Boostagrams of always the Slav. 25,000 sats sent using Fountain. Now, this is obviously talking about Assange, given the fact that Karen went down to Canberra to go try to free Assange. It wasn't successful, but he's trying. Now, Assange most certainly did not break any American laws. The freedom of the press to publish classified information is established in the First Amendment and was upheld in the Pentagon Papers case involving Daniel Ellsberg.
Yeah, so I actually read that book. It was either, so I saw this Boostagram. I read a book by Daniel Ellsberg about these Pentagon Papers. It was either called Secrets or Behind the Doomsday Machine. I can't remember which one. I think Secrets. And yeah, that's a pretty fascinating time about the Pentagon Papers, if you haven't heard about those before, which was essentially why it was all these reasons kind of behind the Vietnam War, why it got started, why they were continuing it, showing the US in a very poor light and essentially being
the US doesn't like that, folks.
No,
they do not like that.
And yeah, so that's a pretty fascinating case, which he's referring to there.
And here's another one from Peter, another 5,000 sats sent using Fountain. And he says, question, without Googling it, do you know what specific information Assange published which annoyed the US so much that they decided to unjustly destroy his life? Now, if the answer is no, why do you think that is?
So, well, the answer is no, I guess, in my case. I know a couple of the
some
videos.
Of the things. Yeah, I know that they released...
So there's the helicopter one.
There's the helicopter
killings. Reuters journalist. I believe it was Reuters.
I do know that they released... Or he released like just general information about... I think it was Guantanamo Bay.
Okay.
Or how they were treating prisoners in Guantanamo Bay and like treating prisoners in general. There's a lot of other army things. But beside that... Not particularly. No, I'm not sure.
Yeah, okay. So then answering the question...
So if the answer is no, like predominantly I'm going to say no. Like why exactly the US is chasing him down so hard? I could make some reasons, but I guess in generality it's no. Why do we think that is?
Well, I guess, so to answer that, it could be, one, the media has kind of been told not to, that forceful pressure of daddy government saying, you know what, you probably shouldn't be advertising what Assange has shown or has not shown. And I mean, we get influenced by American media. It's basically all the media everywhere. Yeah.
Until India takes over.
Until India comes over. I'll be looking forward to some more Indian stories. That's for sure. Some
more Indian memes.
And then the other one would be, just personal laziness. It's so far removed from me. I don't care that much.
Yeah, I mean, that's up to me. That's a little bit.
We would not be talking about him if he wasn't Australian.
Yes. To be honest, like 100%, I barely even knew that he was Australian. Okay. Like when I've looked up a couple of times and been like, I thought the dude was like European. And every now and again, I'll be like, oh, actually, he's Australian.
Well, I mean, with that blonde hair of
his, that's what I mean. That's what I always thought.
You'd assume, yeah.
But yeah, no, some good questions raised there by Peter. So to you at home as well, what do you think? Reply in the comments as well if you're listening to that live.
Well, we just have Westside Baby, aka my brother, saying "Free my boy Assange," and he says it with an H, which was what he was doing while we were down there, being like "Free Assange, free Assange."
Dude, you should have done better, man. You should have done better.
Funny.
Okay, a couple of other ones coming through here. We had some come through today.
Yep.
From the Gold Coast Titans, we suck. 360 sats set using Phantom. Beautiful.
It's written in Boostagram form. It must be true.
It must be true. Another one from Sustainable Clothing. Good afternoon, Karen. We noticed your creativity on last week's live episode where you wore a Chuck's kitchen cloth on your head and claimed that it was a beanie. I am pleased to ask you if you would consider a consultancy role with our company. Clothing ideas like yours are what we all are about at Sustainable Clothing. 1,400 sats sent using
I
Phantom.
don't know what to make of this. Like, I assume it's one of our friends, either Liam or Joey, just being taking the piss. But what if it is a
What if it's an actual? They did enjoy your Chuck's Kitchen beanie. So
I would consider it. The problem is, I don't actually have that much more cleaning. If you've been to our house, you'll notice our cleaning is not up to scratch. I actually just wiped down this table before we started. There was a thick layer of dust everywhere on this table.
That we hadn't cleaned up.
So look, I'll consider it for maybe a one or twice off because I don't have that much more ideas to really float around because my lack of cleaning products is showing.
It's showing. But anyway, that was 1,400 sats sent using Fountain. And then the last one here from Sorcon. Joe, you are a towel. Yeah. 1,150 sats sent using Fountain.
Hard to once again, it's written in the Boostagram, the ledger, I guess.
And again, that one came through live. So
it's Bitcoin. It is immutable. It is immutable that Joseph is a towel.
Is a towel. So that's now forever insane that's what it is. So thank you very much. And
Liam in the chat is saying, "Oh, but you're Mr. Clean."
Very good. Thank you very much for all those Boostagram folks and for the folks sending through live as well.
Yeah, very much appreciated, everyone. Your help supports, we should have probably said, but this is a value for value podcast. So for everyone who's wondering what the hell are these Boostagrams coming in, is a way for you to support the show in a monetary sense. There's plenty of ways. If you listened to us before we started, you could have heard me talking about how sharing is also very caring. Share the mere mortals. We appreciate that. But a Boostagram is a message attached with a payment of Satoshis, whatever number you feel this show is worth. Obviously, some people are sending in some more, some people are sending in some less. We appreciate every single one of them. And yes, it's a great way for you to interact with the show and to be able to be part of the show as well. So
correct.
We do recommend doing that. The easiest way at the moment is to download the Fountain app. You don't even have to convert some of your own money into Bitcoin Satoshis. I know I'm skipping like 6 steps there, but bear with me.
It is getting easier.
Yeah. So in fact, you don't even need to know that. So just go onto Fountain. You can earn some by listening to other podcasts and
just
then
go from there.
Just send them back to us. We'd appreciate it.
Exactly. Again, thank you very much, everyone, for the Boostagrams. That's Boostagram Lounge. Now, let's not procrastinate and get back to it because I'm also tired. So I reckon I'm going to wrap up in a few minutes. Jokes. We'll see how we go. But predominantly, the other thing before I ask you or about us and procrastination was, oh, God. I had literally had it in my mind. I'm like, what was I talking about? It pinpoints. It gives you a bit of an idea. So again, there's looking at procrastination in a good way is that if you do spot yourself procrastinating or something, it might be an indication that that particular thing isn't as important to you, or perhaps can you do away with it altogether? So this was in the definition of procrastination. It's like you're avoiding or you're consciously choosing to not do an important task to do other things that are a little bit more enjoyable. So again, let's go back to the specific of say creating a podcast or running. Putting all the stuff out to be published, right? And so let's say that task takes half an hour and you put it off. You're like, I'm going to watch another video. It is enjoyable. Now, that perhaps indicates there an opportunity where you might go, okay, like I know I'm procrastinating doing this and this is like a weekly thing and I don't want to do it. What if I create a script or I do something where I can automate this so that I don't have to do this anymore because I obviously keep procrastinating rather than... So yeah, I guess I'm saying in that perspective, it's almost good that you're procrastinating and it gives you the ability to recognize that, hey, there's an important task that I really don't want to be doing and I'm continuously not doing it. Like I'll get it done eventually when I have to do it. But how can I change the way that I'm constructing this so that it can be easier or I don't have to do this and I can be doing something else. And so it kind of highlights you, okay, go and fix it. And then you might do so. You might create a script and then all of a sudden you don't have to do that again, and you've like saved yourself all this time, as opposed to if you like we're just super tenacious and we're like, okay, yeah, I've got to be like super productive. I'm not going to procrastinate. This thing comes up. Yep, I'm going to do it. Like I'll put in all of these reward mechanisms. I'll put in time blocks. I'll use Pomodoro technique, whatever, to do it. But they might just keep on doing, like for months and months and months, and never have that realization of, if I'd step back and just notice that I was trying to procrastinate because I hate doing this, and actually, rather than become more effective at it, the answer actually probably should have been like altogether outsource it or automate it or whatever else it may be. And because you were just so focused on never procrastinating, you kind of missed out on those particular learnings or path. So not that always that might happen, and you might not procrastinate, do it, and figure that out anyways, and so like change that up. But I guess that's another positive to procrastination, that it can help you to see things that perhaps you should change in other ways than maybe you just just doing the action itself.
Just brute effort. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, look, you can learn from anything in life. You can learn from the pain and from the pleasure. And in fact, it's probably easier to learn from painful things than it is from pleasurable things. So.
And then the other one with procrastination is like, again, something that you might not be doing and it's important, but then you go, actually, this is not important, obviously, anymore. And that comes down to, we've talked about it heaps, and goal setting and monthly goals and annual goals. But if you find, you have a monthly goal that keeps on just sliding, or you want to create something and it's like, it's not getting done. I think that, yes, you're procrastinating because you're doing other things that are far easier or more enjoyable. But there's also a point that comes like, okay, well, is this even like important anymore? Because if it was important or you found like some real joy, then you wouldn't procrastinate. So maybe that's also an indication of like, okay, maybe that's actually not something I should be doing at all, and move away from it altogether. If for some reason we started, imagine 2 years time, and we're like, we're procrastinating doing like live podcasts anymore. We'll put it off to do the podcast like the next week. We'll just do it next week. We'll just do it next week. I think you'd have to like really look into it and be like, okay, is it because we're not disciplined? Like there is a level of, you can be disciplined and then so you don't procrastinate, or is it, okay, that's like a telltale sign that it's like, okay, we're not like, that's not happening anymore. Maybe because it's not important anymore and we're doing other things, or there's other things that we're pursuing. Cool. Okay. Be mindful of that to start being like, okay, maybe the procrastination is indicating that my joy for that is diminishing and I should be looking in somewhere else.
Yeah.
So it does help somewhat to have procrastination. But
sure.
Personally, for yourself,
do
you find procrastination comes and hits you?
Well, I was just thinking now of how often per week. So I'd sort of define it as, because there's so many ways that I could see where I'm doing actions and I'm like, is that actually procrastination, or is that just a habit that's been formed? And I'm sort of thinking procrastination is when I'm doing an action which I generally enjoy and I feel bad for doing it. That's sort of how I'm viewing it in my mind. So if I find myself on Twitter and just looking at a funny meme or funny video, or even just on YouTube, and I get that pang of, I probably should be, creating some clips right now, or I probably should have been putting some more effort into creating, I don't know, doing German or all a bunch of things that I kind of, mostly enjoy doing, but sometimes they can be aspects of them which are unenjoyable. Versus with German, for example, I don't know if this is procrastination, but a bunch of the times I would need to go to the toilet. It's kind of like sitting down here for half an hour or an hour, something in my body moves and it goes, oh, you unbearably need to go to the toilet now. Now, I don't feel bad about doing that, but it certainly does break up my concentration, and it happens almost every single time.
Okay.
I don't view that as procrastination. So to answer your question, I would say I definitely do procrastinate. I would probably put it around, I would say maybe 3 hours a week sort of thing. If I, in terms of all up, which for me, I think it's kind of manageable. I don't think that's too bad. How much extra work could I get done in 3 hours? Look, it's a bit. I mean, how many hours in a week? 144, something like that.
Sounds about right.
Around that area. I think there wouldn't be too much extra that I could do.
I think we're awfully wrong with our mathematics just then, because 7 times 7 times 20 is 140. God damn. So 7 times 4 is 28. So it's 168.
Okay. Yeah, sounds good.
Dude, man, my brain is fried. But yeah, I agree.
I only missed one then. Yeah.
Yeah. The way that actually I was thinking it through was, so I don't know if I could say like hours per week, but I would say in my procrastinations per hour, I would say that I would do it. I reckon I procrastinate at least 3 times per hour in some way, shape, or form. Now, there could be like long procrastinations. There could be really, really short blips of procrastination. But often it can be, I'd say like 3 procrastinations per hour is like a pretty common practice, unless I'm doing something where it just completely consumes my consciousness in a way that I don't procrastinate at all. So what's the example there? Gym. Like when I'm at gym, there is, especially if I'm doing like a class or I've got my phone away, there is zero procrastination. There is, you know how sometimes people could be, and I guess here, this is not a mere mortal type of, way. I don't think many people are like this generally, but for me, my preference would be I'm at the gym, I'm not talking to any human being, like I've just got music or I'm just seeing other people lift and I'm just doing my own thing, like serially just being like, nah, nobody talking, like hoodie on, cool, awesome. There's aspects of like, yeah, I enjoy like talking, but I don't see that as procrastinating. In fact, I push hard to get back to the gymming thing. So often there'll be a couple of people at the gym who I might talk to, and I'll be like, g'day, what are you training? What's going on? Blah, blah, blah. Cool. Like my set's coming up and they'll still be talking. I'm just actively walking away from them, just being like, yep, I'm going back. I'll like literally be like,
rude motherfucker over here.
Hands on the barbell, about to like do my lift. And they're still talking. I like start like lifting. I'm like, cool. I'm going back into it. No, it doesn't happen all the time. So I'm not like being super rude, but genuinely, when it comes to that, like there's no procrastination.
Yeah.
But in every other thing, like reading, especially with like phone, obviously like that's much more of a mere mortal thing.
Yeah,
I'll normally like, I'll read
zone right there.
4 or 5 pages and it'll be like this nice little slice where I'll be reading, I'm engaged, and then it'll be a slight dull point in the reading for whatever reason, or I'll just finish like a chapter, and then just like phones in the hand, I'm like, boop, Instagram, Twitter, flick. I'm there for like 3 minutes. I kind of catch myself. I'm just like flicking for flick's sake, put it back, go back to reading. I will sometimes, unless I do something specific about my phone, I might do that like 3 times while reading. And it's like, okay, I could be probably reading better, but also it's not like, oh, I'm not reading at all because I'm procrastinating so much. No, that doesn't happen to me, which is good. But we've talked about this in the past where I would consume so much TikTok or Instagram that I'll be like there sometimes like for an hour, and it was getting so like some days it was bad in the sense that I would wake up and I would be procrastinating just getting up out of the bed to go to the gym. That I'd just be flicking through and be like, oh, I've missed my workout. Like I'm going to go now and do my own thing, but I'm not going to go to the workout. Now, that wasn't happening all the time. Yeah. But it happened enough times. I was like, okay, it's got to be, you got to be.
To make a change.
Yeah, you got to make a change here. So, and I think that's when it's procrastinating, I think personally for things that are in exchange for like dopamine rushes. So again, Twitters, like social medias, try to make that as little as possible. And I mean, one of the monthly goals that I did have was setting up my phone correctly. And so now, and I guess this is like my own tip to myself, the way that I try to hold it so I procrastinate less, I guess, is that when I'm doing separate things, I've got a particular setting for my phone for each thing. So for instance, when I'm doing the podcast now, I've got it on work. And when I work, I've also got it on work. So I can get messages from specific people. I can see some notifications in the likes of mail or calendars, so I can see, something's actually coming up. But by the by, like at the moment, I'm getting no Instagram, no Facebook, nothing. Doesn't come through. So it doesn't make me want to actively pursue it. Something really weird that actually has happened, and I have no idea why, but I'm really enjoying it, is that, so I've been a Samsung person like all my life, basically.
Yep.
And I recently got an iPhone, 2 months ago or something like that, right?
Was it even that long? Yeah. Around that.
Maybe like a month ago, something like that. Not too long ago. But I don't know what it was. Maybe it was just the visual change of where the apps sit. Maybe it's the layout of the actual phone itself. I don't know. But I've actually found myself just in the change of phone using my phone less or procrastinating with my phone less, just because. And I don't.
So you
I
get
don't
like get a better new phone and you find that you're using it less.
Yeah, using it less for like the...
Is it because it's shitter or is it because...
Well, that's a good point. I think it's also because I've grouped it. So with, and I'm assuming you can do this now, it's never new, but obviously with iPhones, for people who have the phone, you can group apps into like a certain location or certain grouping.
You mean like those?
Yeah, so you can do it. I just couldn't remember if you could do it or not.
Yeah,
but in that way, grouping it that way, it like disincentivizes me to jump into it, to open up Facebook or to open up another one. So what I would often do in the way that I would procrastinate myself is I would go open, click Facebook, scroll for like 2 minutes, close it, go to Instagram, scroll, Twitter, same thing. But now it's all in a grouping. And so it's not as easy for me to just click one. And so I'll normally just see, if I've got a notification, I'll just click it and then go to the thing. I will do less so of that specific procrastination. But then beyond that, when it comes to like general work things and the like I'll procrastinate all the time, especially if it's a hard task. I was going like, I don't want to do this. But normally for me, I've found, so I guess the opposite, would it be the opposite? Nah, not really. But to get myself, I guess, in the flow of doing work, I have found doing like Pomodoro technique or just time bounded things to be super beneficial. So for me, 25 minutes, 45 minutes with music, and we've talked about the ultradian rhythm type of stuff. So, getting myself into like a time box space where I have to do something works like an absolute treat. And I've never done anything for procrastination to bring a reward for a future thing. I'm not a reward person driven thing, nor the punishment, although perhaps maybe that more so than the reward. But I think for me, the critical one is, okay, if I want to reduce my procrastination with certain things, I'll either slice them more finer and then bring it into a much more like time constrained thing. So I guess it kind of works. I like do this all by default with gym because it is time constrained. It's like, okay, I've got either an hour class or I'm there for an hour and a half and I've got to get these things that I want to get done. It's like, no, I don't have time to just be chilling out and doing whatever. Now I've got to like hit all these things to be able to do it. I think I would struggle if in the way like that you train, it's like, I've got 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours to do it. I might find myself really stretching it out, even though I don't have to, in the sense that I might just sit down, I can check my phone for a bit, do a workout, do something else, although maybe not with gym, but you kind of get the picture. Like I could see that, but for work, same thing. So if I've got a couple of tasks to do, maybe something for the podcast, whatever it may be, putting a time constraint to it. And that's why I bring up that I was doing some of the notes like just before this. So I was, I've got 15 minutes. Bam, and I'll just like all of a sudden I'm just like action, like bam, do all the things, get all the details. Awesome, cool, done, finished. I guess I could recreate that by putting some sort of time constraint at another point earlier in time, so the procrastination doesn't hit then, and might go, I've got 15 minutes before, I've got to have a shower, I've got to go for the gym. Okay, cool. For 15 minutes, I'm going to look this up, put the research, get it actually all done. Okay, good, and go. So I guess, and that's not procrastinating from getting ready to the gym. That's like, okay, you have that space, and I'll time box it to not procrastinate, to not do it at another time.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, it just depends on so just on this same topic of, I would say I used to procrastinate a lot more because I remember you don't watch the entire anime of One Piece without procrastinating a lot, which I have done.
Yeah.
Well, up until I can't remember which arc. It was probably around the time skip. That was when I stopped watching all of it, and I found I don't actually watch anime anymore. Really, certainly not in full episode length. So I might watch little snippets and highlights of cool stuff. And yeah, for me, it's not the time bounding of things. That's like a big NO.
Yeah.
That just causes more anxiety for me, and actually, funnily enough, probably even more likelihood that I'm going to just be in a bad mood, a bad state, and make a bad decision.
Yeah. I think that's where we're very different in that regard, because when I know when I work really well, like when I work at like absolute limit, everything's going well. And I recall it when I had back-to-back meetings, things that had to be delivered like midday, 2 p.m., 4 p.m., all these sessions that you had to do, looking after multiple teams, multiple people. That's when I was like, bam, on my own. Like, so I've got no time to be able to just be like slacking off anywhere. So everything was being absolutely used to its maximum potential until I just felt like I was doing everything. But it's almost the way that Viktor Frankl says it in search for meaning. It was like, suffering, depending on the size of the box, it'll just fill the whole room. Like, you could be someone who's suffering, in the gulags, and you're suffering a lot, right? So it's a lot of suffering. And so maybe let's just say that that particular room's like really small room, but you have that amount of suffering, so it just fills that space and it just feels like a lot. Or you could be, absolutely chilling out, loving life, you get all the space in the world, but that suffering also expands it. I guess in a similar sense, it's like, you would still feel it that way from a procrastination perspective.
Yeah.
Still feels it in that regard. But no, I like the pressure, like time pressure for me solves procrastination.
Yeah. For me, it's the opposite. No. It would be, just trying to think, when I had a couple of really time sensitive things to do at work out in the mines, I could get stuff done, but I'd have maybe an hour or two burst of being able to really intensely focus. And then that would just drain me. And then I would start making bad decisions and, start doing non-priority work, which was just easier and didn't need to get done. But it was like, it's much more fun to draw these design lines than it is to go and figure out what the hell is wrong with this shovel and, fix up this design that's not going to work. Like it physically can't work. And yet I somehow have to fix it up, which is just, recreate everything sort of thing. So
look, in any case, I think finalizing, I just think, is procrastinating a bad thing? Not really. As long as it's not, as always, it's not a bad thing. You can make it bad if it's like way beyond over the top and it's actually distracting you from doing life and doing critical things. Sure. Yeah. But I think there's a lot of positives. I think
it's getting it to the manageable level in your life. So for me, like I said, I definitely procrastinate, but it's okay. I feel it's not too bad, and might even have some benefits in just terms of stress relief, because I'll get to see some more funny memes during the week or something.
Exactly.
Like that.
Exactly. Yeah. As always, there can be always the negatives, but the positives, but it's a dichotomy. So fall somewhere in the middle. I think you'll be fine.
Yep.
Any final comments?
Yeah. So there was one thing I want to bring up, which is Joey. Joey was having a bit of problems in the chat, and he was saying that we missed a Boostagram. And I did have a look back.
Was there one that come through at all?
He's given us some timestamps. So one was at 8:37 UTC and another was at 9:34. So we got one of them.
I did get the other one that came through at 7:40 PM.
Yeah, so that's not the one I believe he's talking about, because he was saying both of them were 1900 sats. So you can read out that last one if you wouldn't mind.
I will. It is from Chuck's Clothes Marketing. Thank you, Karen. 100 sats.
That was the name. That was the name that was sent through. Chuck's Clothes Marketing. Do you know how much of a pain in the ass it's going to be to collect all of these when we come to the next monthly goals? Because I'm going to be like, which name is Joey's? Chuck's.
Sorcon, Sustainable Clothing, the Gold Coast Titans.
I don't know who's Gold Coast Titans and who's...
Dude, it helps in the anonymity, I guess, of that case, but...
That's the way you get a truly anonymous Bitcoin. You just create 50 different names and it's
the same person.
But no, this does bring up an important topic, which is what happens if I send in a Boostagram and it doesn't come through? Well, I've felt this pain and I know that it really sucks. It kind of feels like you've been slighted.
You've been gypped.
You've been gypped. It feels like you've been slighted by the podcaster. It's like, how dare they... No, it's like, how dare they? You just... I felt bad. This happened to me a bunch of times, sending it through to other people.
And they're like, you're not reading it out.
And they're just like, and they're just like, I saw your name, Karen. Fuck you. No, so most of the time, it's 99% of the time when that happens, it is just pure... There's no malice or even negligence. It is just shit breaks. Which happens all the time.
Still all fairly new, right? Still pretty new.
Yep. So a little bit of compassion is appreciated. But the next step is, notify us in whatever way you want, and either give us the message via there, and we'll make sure to read it out. Or, I will, help you find the root cause of the problem. Was it the app? Was it something on our end?
Plus, the beautiful thing is, and I guess we're still it is still all very, very new, but, we are, and I think you are in conversations with people like Oscar across from Fountain. So, to understand, when we see issues like this, we're also going to give feedback to some of the people who are actually out there building and creating a lot of these things. Because perhaps it is something to do with the Lightning Network. Maybe it is something to do with the app, the way the app's working. Which, okay, it's sort of, yes, I think we talked about this ages ago. All of it's still like very much in beta mode. So, yeah, we do say, we do want you to support us. But as always, it's like, it is still very much something that is still being built. It's like, we're flying the plane and it's being built as it goes. But so don't be alarmed if that happens, but do try to let us know because there is no malice that comes from that.
Yeah. So Joey's actually just here saying the 2 boosts I sent did not have text. They were just with the name Chuck's Clothes. That would be it, Joey. So if it doesn't have an actual text, any text in the file, the boost does get sent through to us, but it won't show in the way that we have it set up to receive them.
Gotcha.
So I can go deep into the logs here and I will find that
same
you
thing
have
with
sent
streaming.
them through.
Same with streaming because the streaming doesn't come through.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the reason there, Joey. You've sent through a message, but if it doesn't have any text in it, I won't just see the name unless I purposefully go really kind of like deep into the logs, which I only do once a month, mate. So yeah, that's the reason why. So yeah, to sum this all up, Joey is a towel, and and it is Liam F says you're the worst kind of people at the gym. Actually, that's probably referring to you.
Yeah.
We also have identity F. Faraz. He's saying, loving the book reviews lately. Thank you so much, my friend.
Appreciate it, man.
I need to check out your channel and learn some Hindi. You know what? Even better, you should make it so that your bloody Hindi words are coming into English, so I don't even have to learn it. That's the best way to go, mate.
Damn. All right. Well, look, we'll sum it up there. Procrastination. We have been a little bit all over the place, but I hope you took away some learning, some value.
Yep.
We are value for value. We have talked about Boostagrams. You heard us talk about Boostagrams in the middle. If you do want to contribute, of course, we recommend go use Fountain. Go trial it out. To be honest, that's probably going to be the easiest way, and it's starting to get easier and easier. So, look, I think things are going to be moving down the path anyways in a couple of years. So, get yourself ahead.
There are a couple of places called Get Albi, which is kind of a Lightning extension that you can use on your Chrome browser.
Oh, yes, you were saying. Yep.
Yeah, and they're getting close to being able to do kind of one-click, addition of funds, of transferring, money, fiat to Bitcoin or Lightning Bitcoin, and then being able to send that. So it's getting close to that. One click thing.
So being easy, exactly. So jump in before
really cool.
Happens. All right, folks, that's all. Hope you enjoyed. Be immortalized. Juan out.
Karen out.
Good.
I'll see you later, I guess.
Good.
Very good. Very good. Thank you, everyone, for joining. So who was joining us? Well, we had Patricia, Westside Baby, Liam F, Joey Broad Shoulders, and Faraz in the chat. Oh, you're all wonderful people. Joey, PS 3,900 sats from Chuck's Clothing and more to come as per your sponsorship agreement. Joey, you can't say that on here. People will get the idea that I actually have one. I don't have a sponsorship agreement with Chuck's.
He does.
The Argentinian Chucks. That's why the I wish I had the beanie. I think it's just in the other room, but oh well. Thank you all. Thank you all for joining us. Once again, I'm going to be editing this, but I'll be on the Discord. So if you want to continue the chat, come join me in the Discord on the Stream of Consciousness channel. Mm-hmm. And yeah, much appreciated. It's super exciting getting all these boosts and seeing things ticking up. I'm working hard to try and get more people in the live chat as well. So
that way, guys, can have a bit more fun in there as well.
Yeah, for sure. So thank you, everyone. Going to end the stream now. Hope you're having a fantastic evening or day wherever you are. Peace.